Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Leadnap Gaming. This week we're breaking down logistical constraints in Star Citizen that might just save you a little bit of real world coin. Before we get started, a quick reminder that we have less than 500 subs to go for our 10k sub Perseus giveaway. This is one of your last chances to smash that subscribe button and comment to get entered to win a shiny new Perseus. Details in the description below.
We make sure the real heroes make it to where they're needed most. At Crusader Industries, we know that lifting up others benefits us all.
Ooh, tingles. Now this is the verse we're talking about. Carpet bombing, fleet battles, high-drang in space, tanks and infantry rolling out to wipe that rival org off a planet. Like a self-styled Emperor Palpatine, we all imagine sitting in our chair looking out the windows from our personal bangle and pronouncing into general chat, "Yes, I assure you, we are quite safe from your friends here." It is of course the dream that we always talk about, reliving our favorite moments of science fiction, aboard our very own ships of the verse, crewed with our friends and NPCs. The biggest draw to Star Citizen for most is not the small fighter dogfighting or bounty hunting reputation system, it's the ships, the possibilities. Perhaps I should warn you, I'm about to be critical of your favorite ships and of the gameplay future of Star Citizen. I'm a longtime backer, I love the project, and I certainly look forward to the release of the game, while playing every patch until then. This video isn't about CIG, it isn't about Chris Roberts, but instead about an often overlooked truth in the Star Citizen verse that's easy to forget about in the hype. The truth is financial logistics, and I'm talking about in-game financial logistics. Yet these will save you real money as well. There are fleets in Star Citizen that rival Starfleet, most owned collectively by orgs, but I do know a few super whales too. There's nothing wrong with owning a big fleet, there's nothing wrong with massive orgs. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's continue. A few weeks ago, a YouTuber with no real-world military experience weighed in and then doubled down on the Hercules as a dropship. In all fairness, he was both entirely wrong, but will end up being vindicated and right in the verse. It has been on my production board for a long time to do a video about the different stages of a military landing, and about what ships in Star Citizen would fill in. This won't be that video. The thing is, the dream many of us have had for the verse, that I talk about regularly, involves looking at the bunks in our Carrack's berthing and imagining them full of NPCs or our friends playing along. Anyone who owns something larger than a heavy fighter imagines a day when fleet battles we remember from EVE Online come to fruition. It's where we debate the merits of the Perseus versus the Polaris, where we think about how powerful an Idris will be. This really is, after all, one of the two features that Star Citizen has over all of its competitors in the segment, and frankly what would revolutionize all gaming in the space. The thing is, and I know plenty disagree, we're never going to have massive fleet battles like EVE Online's most celebrated memories. Let me explain. I fly every week in a DCS virtual squadron, where it's difficult enough to put 15 humans into a weekly training night, let alone getting 70 to 80 pilots into a well-planned and promoted mission night that also falls on the same time and day every week. For the sake of today's discussion, we're going to stick to groups of 50 with a total of 100. Never mind today's server caps can't facilitate this, we're talking about release gameplay. I'm sticking to 50 for easy numbers. Now in EVE, 100 players facing off 50 on 50 isn't the battle like we're dreaming about. You might have 8 to 10 capital ships, 3 to 4 scouts, 3 to 4 torpedo attackers, and some fighters mixed in on both sides. Don't get too bogged down on what ships here. The key is you have reached a critical mass. There's enough chaos for the glass cannons to slip in and unleash hell, which dictates the tactics on both sides. There are enough targets the massive firepower of the capital ships don't just melt the opposition right away. When the critical mass has been achieved, the unique and exciting roles of each ship are demanded specialized. The battle lasts long enough that reinforcements can be summoned, and their timing will turn the tide or seal the fate. When I said I drang in space, I was very careful to pick my example. Now replay the same battle but with only 10 ships per side, 20% of the fleet from before. There isn't a critical mass anymore. The scouts now have to act as damage dealers. The glass cannons have a near suicidal mission and cannot exploit their targets correctly. Reinforcements are not going to arrive before the battle's already over. Most EVE players I knew would just consider this an engagement, nothing to write home about. Which is the catch. Star Citizen's ships are designed just like EVE's, measured against real-world classifications and concepts. There's a UEE Navy, which produces fleets which then engage following the decisive battle doctrine. The Idris is designed for a role in that battle, as is the Retaliator, Perseus, Polaris, Javelin, Bengal, etc. We need this for lore. We need this for immersion. The cost, however, in a game like Star Citizen, is that 100-player battle will certainly be an event to remember, because there may only be a handful of them ever. 100 players in EVE is 100 ships in the fight. This isn't true of Star Citizen, despite living in a verse which is 80% NPCs. Now this video could get really long and we could cover various scenarios in depth, but I think you'll be able to take the 20% scenario and scale it up and down and see the problems without me explicitly doing so. I arrive at 20% from the idea that 80% of our crews will be NPCs as well. A full player crewed ship is going to be of superior fighting quality, and a single player ship with a full NPC crew? Well, we'll get there. Let's look at 100 players at 20%. My guess is we're really looking at more like about 20 to 25 ships in the fight per side, with larger multi-crewed ships will have a skeleton human crew and fill out the rest with NPCs. For the sake of example, I have created the following fleet, mirrored on both sides. In the example, I represented the various unique skill positions various ships have, while factoring areas where players might prefer human actors over NPCs, like the Hammerheads for example. In our 100-player battle, the total crew count per side is 175, meaning that were we to play this battle with an entirely human crew, it would actually be a 350-player battle. Though such numbers will be entirely possible, if each side could take 175 players, and utilize 80% NPC crews, you would get a much larger battle. So no matter how you scale up the human players, the limitations of the 20% scenario here will almost certainly continue to play as a factor in reality. So what about those logistics I was talking about earlier? Well, labor isn't cheap, and neither has warfare ever been so. We have no idea what NPC rates are going to be, but using a metric we do have, we could make an educated guess. The average package mission pays out about 8,000 UEC and takes about roughly 45 minutes. Most of your hour-long missions pay 10 to 11k. For the sake of argument, let's assume the going minimum wage rate of the verse is 10,000 UEC an hour. Now I can already tell a number of you are up in arms. First I dare to risk saying something critical of Star Citizen, and now I suggest NPCs won't cost a few UEC an hour like a bottle of water or a torpedo burrito. Put your pitchforks away. CIG has always told us the big ships would be expensive to operate, and if you're honest with yourself, you know that you can make way more per hour doing high rep bounties and whatnot in that hour. At 10k per crewman in an hour, I could still fully crew my 600i and run a profit bounty hunting. Which leads us to another important point. We're talking unskilled labor here. If you want premium turret gunners, the rate's probably higher. So 10k an hour for 125 NPC crewmen comes out to 1.25 million an hour to man our 20% fleet for battle. This might be the cheapest war ever fought in the history of humankind. Now that doesn't sound too bad, right? This is after all a big fleet battle, and I can make that in an hour on my Herc. If only crew NPCs were lined up in whatever moon outpost we're fighting over to be onboarded. But they won't. So for the sake of argument, let's assume an hour from Safe Harbor and an hour back, hopefully without having taken a scratch. We're now looking at 3.75 million in labor cost alone. Again, looking at basic rookie skill prices. We're not even bothering to calculate what the fuel costs are going to run going system to system to system. It's also unlikely all your ships were originally in the same place to begin the day, so there's fuel and labor to assemble that fleet too. In the end, the battle alone is probably going to cost the fleet the price of a hammerhead. Never mind the end goal. Obliterate a mirror image of our own fleet. Now, I don't know what an Idris will cost in game, but between repair costs, don't forget labor, replacement costs, rearming and refueling costs, we're eyeing a fleet battle that'll cost at least one side a few hundred million. Never mind the entirely likely possibility CIG charges inverse hangar rent like they've mentioned. Now, I know cash is plentiful in the verse today, but even mega orgs won't be shelling out hundreds of millions each week to organize mega fleet battles, because the orgs with the wallets large enough to do so also have to front load that kind of cash for their economic divisions simultaneously. War, what's it good for? Silly lead, you forgot all about server blades and insurance. Well, not really. If you think the only thing server blades will be used for is slaving your turrets, I have a surprise for you. CAG is going to make it a painful choice to put all your turrets into blades. The entire premise of the verse is crewed ships. Depend on the fact that you'll maybe shave one or two people from a larger crew, but that's it. CAG has already mentioned in the past insurance won't cover everything. Might be you lose your ship outside of controlled space and it's not covered. Or perhaps, just like real insurance, warfare isn't covered. If that ends up the case, how many of your org mates who own javelins do you really think are going to risk them regularly? You also need to pay for insurance for all those pesky components you upgraded to have the meta edge on your foes. The Star Citizen economy needs a money sink, and this is the best one. Also keep in mind here, the large fleet battles paid for themselves in a sense as well in EVE because the looting rewards from winning the battle made it worth risking it all for the battle. And right now, we don't have any kind of an indication like that for Star Citizen. The only group that would probably be able to profit from winning such a battle would be a large org that has a major salvage operation. And even then, that might have to be defended. The logistics of it are just poor. So this is where the real-world savings are. First, mega fleet battles that real-world gaming press bother to cover are going to be incredibly rare. The sorts of make-or-break org moves to either topple a foe or be toppled. Don't spend your hard-earned money planning for this eventuality. You probably won't be there. Second, you don't need a ton of really big ships. Factor in a 3-hour gameplay session on your Polaris is going to run you $150,000 in labor. Are you going to make that up during your 3-hour session? Which takes me back to that YouTuber from earlier. Like I said, he's entirely wrong. The Hercules is a combination Globemaster heavy transport that only lands on the most safe of runways, and the landing ship tank, which only deploys on lukewarm beaches at most. If we were to experience landings like the one CIG demonstrated for us, just as the video shows, the battle's off in the distance. Imagine what the UEE paid for that invasion. However, we're unlikely to ever see an invasion like that in game unless it's an NPC mission event, meaning your average real ground landing operation will maybe be a Valk and an M2, delivering a Tonk and maybe 15 to 20 player infantry including the dismounted ship crews. Turns out, dropship indeed. So that was a crash course, and I glossed over a whole ton of details, but hopefully the point sunk in. If there's going to be a mega fleet battle, it'll be long foretold. You'll have time to grind that last few million UEC to buy the ship you want to realistically take, and then the expense will be worth the while. It isn't that it won't ever happen, but plan your fleet purchasing with the regular gameplay in mind, and not the incredibly rare. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts and what ship you would bring to my 100-player battle. Like and share this video with your ship buying friends, hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and I will catch you all next time.